All right. Well, welcome everyone to an amazing webinar that we have for you today. It's the business planning, goal setting, really figuring out how you're going to accomplish your goals here as we look towards 2024. I am so excited to welcome Spring Bengtzen and Zach Muir. Zach from Sisu, Spring from Spring B, and Utah Life Group. Welcome, guys. Great to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely, Zach. So great to be with you guys last week, in Denver at the Sierra Summit. And I think we heard some amazing speaking and some ideas. But I think the most powerful one that started to resonate, with me was starting to look here into 2024 and start to look at business planning and to really understand what does that mean as far as, working on your plan for 2024 and then working the plan, right? Not just creating some outline one time and never looking back at it again. And I think some of the tools that we're going to talk about today really help you focus on those goals that you've set and start to measure you throughout the year. So I'm excited to jump in here and take a look. So Spring, if you want to just go ahead and just do a quick introduction, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, so Spring Bengtzen here. I'm from Salt Lake City, Utah. Our team this year is, I think we've closed like 650, or we have pending and closed like 650 units. Last year, we closed about 600. I think it was 589. So we're above pace from last year. I'm going to show you exactly what we've done and how we're prepping for this year.
So let me stop you right there. So you're saying here we are, it's mid-October, and you've already closed more transactions in 2023 than you did all of 2022.
Yep. And quite frankly, you guys, I went into 2023 planning to do the exact same, zero growth within my organization because the market being down by 40%. So I figured if I could sustain where we were, it was a win because our market was down by 40%. So I'm going to share with you the process we went through and the process that we're going through right now. I'm actually in the thick of this, of what we're doing today on here with my team and our coaches at a very high level. We're going to finalize it on Halloween. So I'm going to walk you through exactly what we're doing, but I'm excited to share with you guys that.
Me too. I'm excited as well. And Zach.
Spring, sorry, I heard you're going on like a super laid back small hike this weekend.
Are you doing your Mount Everest climb again this weekend?
Yeah, I'm in Vermont right now. In fact, from getting here from Utah was an all day. We got to the airport like 6:30 yesterday and didn't get here till 9 o'clock last night. And my husband saw that I was doing this and he's like, are you sure we're on vacation? So today is my Zoom day. I've been on calls all day. And then the rest of it is an actual somewhat of a trip, fall break, and I'm hiking. Yeah, we're doing Everest. It's the last one, the Everest challenge, the last one of the year. So I'm excited. It's gonna be fun. Follow me on the gram. You'll see it.
All right.
Thanks for
awesome.
making time for us. In the middle of it. So
yeah, you're great.
All right. Let's go ahead and just click forward here on the next one. There we go, Mr. Zach.
All right, I'm Zach. I've been around at Sisu since day one, which was like 6 years ago. And I know you're probably doing the math in your head and thinking, well, he can't be older than 21. So did he start when he was 15? But no, I have been around. I'm just about to turn 30. I love this company. I love working with Spring, and I'm excited to show you all the business growth and the planning. This is really like our niche here at Sisu, is the business planning season. This is our most exciting time of the year because everyone's setting their sights forward, finishing out this year strong, starting next year. What do those plans look like? I think everyone on this call, if you've done a business plan before, it probably resonates with you that by March of this year, or you've probably done a business plan before where by March of the next year, no one's looking at it, no one's thinking about it, and that thing's in the trash, right? And that just doesn't happen when, at least for our clients, these are living, breathing plans that just continue to get better throughout the year. And I'm excited to show you how that's worked for Spring.
Yeah, no, perfect. So just a quick thing, introduction, I'm Scott Ryder, Director of Sales with Sierra Interactive. So we're going to record this. So if it hasn't already started to record, we'll make sure it is recording. And then you can go ahead and put your comments or questions in the chat. And we will try to keep addressing things. And if not, we'll follow up with some questions at the end. So there we go. All right, that's our housekeeping items. We can move on to the next. So what we're going to cover today, right? And again, I'm going to let Spring and Zach do most of the heavy lifting and talking about this, but we're going to talk about setting your goals. Then we're going to dive deep into some understanding of like, what does it look like to look at your business reports and what you can do with these numbers, and then really kind of like how you can use these numbers to become profitable in your overall business. So do you guys want to add anything to that?
No, I think it's great.
Perfect.
No, it's perfect.
Great. All right, so move on next.
I think that might be it. We diving in.
I'm trying to. I'm seeing if we got one more. So where did it go? All right. So why don't we kick us off then? So Spring, why don't you talk a little bit about like, what does this look like in your organization? And I kind of have a small little advantage here. I've kind of seen some of the Utah life insides by going out and visiting with you guys and doing some offsites. But business planning isn't just a one-time event, is it?
No. So I love this time of year because it brings this topic up. But I actually don't believe in doing an annual business plan, just because, to what Zach said earlier, of like a lot of times you set it and you forget it. Or it is that, like, who would have known that even back whatever was 2021 or whatever, interest rates would start climbing that quickly. Like, you have to be willing to pivot, right? So the way that we do ours is we do them in quarterly. We do them in 90-day segments, because 90 days, something might be completely different, right? 90 days, the market could be different. It could be that there's so much stuff going on in our industry right now that I'm a believer of a 90-day and a 90-day benchmark. So we operate that way if we do 90-day business plans. Now, at this time of year, though, we do a 2-day offsite annual planning that we get our leadership team all on the same page, rowing in the same direction of the boat. And we really map out. So at this time of year, what we're doing, which I think all of you could be doing, is saying, okay, let's look at the year in review. What did we accomplish? Like, what are all the wins? Because it's really easy to get caught up on like what's going wrong. So what are all the wins and what we're doing right? And then what do we want to create? Like, where do we want to go moving forward? And so we'll go through and say, okay, what was great and where do we want to go?
And let me stop you there. Sorry, I don't want to try to cut your
stop me. Yeah.
Thought. I just want to just go back. You get your leadership to go first to this offsite, correct?
Yeah. So it's just my leadership team. So it's my director of sales, my CFO, our director of operations, and that's it. So there's a small leadership group that we get together quarterly, and then for a 2-day offsite. And the 2-day offsite is we're coming down and we're like analyzing everything in our business. So we start with what is going really well, and then we go into where do we want to go, because it's not going to be, I think I used to run the team this way, of a little bit of a dictatorship of, hey, this is what Spring wants and let's go create it. And it doesn't really work that way, because if they don't have the buy-in and their desire of what they want as well, then it's just cool. This was a number 3 Spring throughout. So
there's no buy-in. There's no buy-in from it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. And oftentimes they'll have bigger visions than us, than me, right? Like, they're like, hey, I want to make this amount of money or whatnot. And so the way that we do this is, first of all, we'll go in and say, what is it? Where have we been? And what do we feel like we could create in 2024? So where do we think is realistic with what we have, and what is it we want to create? And we'll analyze everything. And this is where CSU comes into play. We're looking at how many transactions we've closed. We're looking at how many buyers we closed, how many listings we closed. We're looking at lead sources. We're looking at lead source ROI. You can find all of this in CSU. And we're also looking at our percentages of our profit margins. So where are we at in alignment for where we want our margins to be? As you guys know, like most successful teams have been operating, the benchmark is a 30% profit margin. that can be difficult if you're not running your margins correctly. So the cost of goods sold, what are you paying your agent? How much are we spending in salaries? What are we paying in marketing? And so we come to the table with all of this information. So when I said, hey, I'm in the thick of it, like we're in the thick of it right now. I'm working with my CFO of saying, where are we at in all categories? Like right now, where are we at in terms of our budget we've set? And we're in alignment, but not 100%. So I can come to my leadership team and say, here's where we're at as a whole. Like, this is how much money we're making. This is how much money we're making per agent. This is how many agents we have. This is our lead ROI. And then as a team, we can come up with like, where do we feel like we can improve? And where do we want our numbers to be for 2024?
And I know we're going to get into this. I know we're going to look at more detail, but those are some amazing metrics that you're pointing out there. So for example, what's your ROI per lead source? What is your basically your ROI per agent? You didn't say it that way, but really in a sense, what is the commission that each agent's going to contribute to your overall team? I mean, you can kind of calculate and do a lot more builds with understanding where you can go, knowing that granular data. It's just a very easy way to do that, especially when you use a tool like CCR.
Well, and it's a way that we know what our margins can be. Like, I think oftentimes as team owners, in the past, until the last probably 2 to 3 years, I felt like I was out of control of how much money I was going to make, me, Spring Bengtzen, the company, or being able to say, hey, to my director of sales, this is how much money and bonuses you can make. And once you understand the numbers component of it, this truly makes it a business to where you can make educated decisions and back into the income levels. I can tell you exactly how much money I'm going to make this year because I know how many agents I have, what lead sources, conversion ratios, and what we're doing. And I know where our margins are at in terms of our expenses. And I can tell you like how much money we're going to make. And I think that I want one last thing I want to hit on this is we pivot often too. So like the plan, when I say, I know how much money I'm going to make, because sometimes we're having to pivot off the plan and say, okay, well, if our margins are up here, how do we get them back in line? Or, hey, the market's down here. How many more agents do we need to increase? Or, hey, how much more lead flow do we need to increase? And these are all decisions, like I said, we are able to make because of our partnership with Sisu. So
yeah, and it's not like you're waiting till this time of year in October of the end of the year to make these decisions. When you do your quarterly reviews and you're looking at a lead source, you can pull that lead source and look at your conversions and be able to decide, well, geez, we're converting at a high level. I need to pour more money into this lead source, or vice versa. Maybe we need to exit this source and focus on another area, right? I think that's the powerful thing.
Yeah. So we look at everything on a monthly basis. We do a financial review monthly with my leadership team where we show exactly, like we go through the P&L and show them exactly what we're doing. And same with our lead flow. How is this pacing? I do give grace because not every lead's going to convert immediately, right? So like we look at it on a 6 month, and whenever I'm going into a relationship on a lead source, and it could be wrong, you guys, like you have to do what's right for your business, but I know that a certain amount are going to convert immediately, and I know that a certain amount are going to convert over time. So I'm a 6 month, like let's give it 6 months to see if we can get some conversion from this before I'm making the decision to eliminate. But I do make the decision to eliminate or double down on it if it's making sense.
Makes 100% sense. Awesome. Well, so let's start to understand some more of this detail. I think that's a great high level strategy of how you approach this. So how do we start diving into these metrics, and how do we start looking at these details in order to make these great decisions?
Yeah. So, I mean, the first thing I did, you guys, is I connected with my CFO. You guys, if you have like somebody who runs your books, or maybe if you have I'm assuming you all have a bookkeeper who's running your books, and your director of ops or whoever you have. And first thing I did was I created a budget based off what we've done this year. Right. So I think a big component is looking at where you've been. So we created a budget of where we've been. And then we said, okay, what is it that we want to do this upcoming year? You guys, my market's down by 40%. I said this earlier. Our team is actually right now, like the last 2 months, like it's gotten a little bit more difficult. I don't know about you guys. Drop in the chat if your market's gotten a little bit funkier in the last few months. And so we're pivoting a little bit. We're pivoting a little bit of like, what is the goal? And the way that I'm looking at this, and again, this is just my own business. You guys get to choose what you want to do. But I'm looking at it saying, if we're down by about 40%, not us, but the market, if the market's down by 40%, and you guys have heard me say this before, I can't cut 40% of expenses. Mm-hmm. So I either need to make the decision of how do we bring in more revenue? And so what we're looking at is, for me, how we pull that lever is we have to have more agent count to bring in more transactions, right? Thinking like, how do we get more people in our ecosystem? So we're looking at how many agents we need to bring in, where we need to cut on expenses. Is there anything that we can cut? And then we're also looking at, is there any way that we can get additional revenue coming into the team? So ancillary services, so title and mortgage, insurance, solar, how can we get additional revenue coming in? So the first part is we're setting a budget. The second part is we're saying, where do we want to go? Let's look at where the market's at. Where do we want to go? And then how are we going to get there? I don't personally have that we're going to go increase our revenue from this year to next. We're looking to sustain for this current year, and I'll be happy if we do. And I said this last year, and one of my private coaching clients actually, I respect him at the highest level. He said, "Well, that sounds terrible. Why would you coach us to sustain going into the next year?" And I'm like, well, dude, my market's down by 40%. So if I'm sustaining, like I'm winning, right? But I will tell you, first quarter in, we crushed it. And so we did raise our goals, right? We were like, okay, let's go in and pivot. And so that's what I'm saying. I don't feel like you have to go into this for the whole year. We're going into it planning and we're saying, hey, if we can sustain what we did last year, how do we do that? And then we're going into it at the end of first quarter. If we need to pivot, we'll pivot. So I just don't feel like we're in that, but you need to have a full year plan baked out.
Yeah, and just a couple of clarification and a couple of questions. So number one, typically you can look at your MLS and understand how many units have closed in your MLS, say year to date, and you can compare that to how many units have closed this year to date, and gauge, if your market's off a percentage. So that was one of the questions in the chat. And then the other thing I wanted to touch on, in that you did this, but you didn't really call it this, but you built a revenue waterfall. You said, okay, this is how much we're going to get from real estate sales. This is how much we're getting from mortgage. This is how much we're getting from title. This is how much we're getting from other ancillary service, solar, home warranty, whatever happens to be insurance. And you guys built a revenue waterfall in your business of how you're going to achieve your goals.
Yeah. I mean, you guys, there's 4 ways to increase revenue outside of ancillaries for your business, period. One is you increase per agent productivity, meaning you get more per agent. Do I think that's realistic? Yes. So but can I get it from every agent on my team? Probably not, but it's the whole 80-20 rule, right? The second lever you can pull is you can increase your price point. Do I think I can increase our price point? Yes, but substantially, probably not, like immediately. Over a course of a year, absolutely, right? The third lever you can pull is you increase agent count, like to recruit, right? And then the fourth lever you can pull is to manage expenses. Expenses are going to be one of those things that just can get wonky. Like you run your team and you're like, all of a sudden you're like, what is this? What is this AI I'm paying for? What is this software? What is this? And that's why a lot of people, especially in the real estate space, it's easy to get the shiny object. You go to the conferences and there's all those booths and it's like, I can do this for you and I can do this for you and I can do this for you. And the truth of the matter is all of them are fantastic, but are you really using them? And so you'll hear me talk about this. Like I use Sierra and I use Sisu and a G Suite, and that's it to run our organization, just because it's so easy to overspend in having way too many tech platforms. But those are the 4 ways that you can, outside of having ancillary businesses, those are the 4 levers, right? And so on top of that, you can add ancillary services if you have enough business. Now, if you don't have enough business, that's an incredibly difficult way to add. So if you're a team and you're like, man, I don't have enough business to go have title or mortgage or insurance, I would be looking at it saying, okay, well, what lenders can you partner with to help with some of your Sierra lead gen expenses? What home warranty companies, what local vendors, like how can you get additional revenue coming in to help you pay for some of these things?
Yeah, and let me just take an opportunity to say Sierra has a completely built out lender co-marketing program. And so you guys can have multiple lenders. It doesn't have to be one. They can contribute not only towards your platform cost, but they can also be contributing towards your digital advertising, Facebook remarketing, other forms of digital advertising. So, you know, having a partner that can partner with you that way, that's a really good intermediate step versus having an ancillary service like a title or a mortgage company that you own. And then just to answer Andrea's question, you know, I think Spring just touched on this. You have to have enough business. You have to have enough transactions internally that you could feed to your business to make it worth your while. And kind of understanding what those numbers are, I think is a discussion for another day. So
yeah. So Andrea, just to give you context, I barely just launched mortgage and I've been doing real estate for 20 years. For the longest time, because the numbers didn't make sense, I did exactly what Scott talked about. My lender paid into Sierra and got the same leads that I received. And that's how we were able to have that lender contribution. So you just have to have enough transactional revenue to create those JV opportunities. The biggest thing too, Scott, is if they're looking to increase revenue, because your cost of goods sold should be at 40%. And this is where I think a lot of teams.
Does everyone understand what that means? I mean, that is the commissions that you are paying out as part of the splits. Like when they take their splits, that cost of goods sold, COS, that's what that represents. So just to clarify.
Yeah. And so this is the number one thing I see teams that we coach, and including mine for a long time, was wonky, because we put on our realtor hat. Like I did a call the other day with an agent who I said, can I ask you a million little questions? Like, tell me about your business. And he went on to tell me like how we could never have a team at a 50-50 split and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, so how much money do you make outside of your team, like from your team? And he's like, well, I don't. And I'm like, that is the problem, is because you're looking at this as from a realtor. Of course, as a realtor, you would prefer not to pay any splits if you could. But from a business owner, you have to have that revenue, right? And so one of the things as you're going through doing your business planning is looking at what are my agent splits, and are we really making profits outside of what I'm personally selling? So if you're still in production, what revenue is your team actually bringing in? Not what you're bringing in, but what revenue is your team bringing in? And then how do you scale that? Now, what we've had to do when we've had to go back and change splits and stuff in the past is this is where Sisu again came in very powerful for me, was because we went in and just said, hey, here's our lead source. This is what we're paying. This is how much we're making. And a lot of our leads, we were in the negative. And it was because we were paying too much out on cost of goods sold, our commissions. And so we said, hey, I respect the fact that like you might not be okay with the split, but I, as a company, cannot continue to pay for it if we're not making any money. In fact, on some of these, we're losing money. So I'm willing to continue to pay for it if you're okay with XYZ split. And that's how we were able to change from our cost of goods sold. So you guys, we are at a 50-50 split. Some of our splits are down to 30% and 20% to the agent. But the value that we're providing is massive, that they're like, I would take that lead and the opportunity to make 20% or 30% than having to have a 70-30. So it didn't happen overnight, but using the data from the back end and showing them. Like I had an agent come to me and say, I don't understand. And this was before we were some of our splits. She said, I don't understand why I'm paying a 60% split, so 40 to her, on a lead source. And I said, I totally respect it. Let me show you. And I just opened it up and she's like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize, because I was actually losing money still at that point. Right. So one piece of advice I would give you guys is to be an open book, like be transparent with the numbers. But I'd also challenge you as well. If you're like, man, our cost of goods is really wonky. You can always recruit to a subculture. So we've had to do that too, meaning whoever we brought on started with what we wanted to create and pivot towards, so you could get your numbers in alignment.
Love it. Well, then I think would be really interesting to understand then, like, what do these reports look like? What is this data that you're tracking, and how can we see what this looks like? Is there anyone on this call that can help show us anything?
Yeah, Zach, do you want to pull up some?
Dive into that. Spring, as you've been talking, as I've been thinking about this, I mean, I know that you've been setting business plans for how many years?
A long time. Like,
yeah. I mean,
like we've been doing,
it, right?
Yeah. But I never followed it, Zach, to be honest with you. Like, if I'm being very, very honest, you guys, like, I would do these big team rollouts and I'd hire speakers and we would do a team initiative for a day or 2 days. And we would have the agents whiteboard out what their goals were, and everybody would leave there all pumped up. And I was like, I remember them putting their goals on the whiteboard and I was like, damn, if they hit their goals, I'm gonna be selling like 2,000 houses. Like, yes. And then the next day would come and nothing had changed. Right. And it was like, okay, well, that was a cool 2 days that I spent with my team mapping this out and having a raw sesh, right? And then same with the leadership team. All right, let's create a budget. Let's come up with what we want. We throw out some number because it sounded good, and then we never followed the budget. We didn't like change anything that we were doing. And I had to take an internal gut check and be like, well, why am I doing this? Because everybody tells me I should. Yeah.
We're all sitting on this call saying like, it's a
cool.
given that we're going to go set a business plan, but why are we doing it? So I love this.
Yeah. So for me, you guys, like, if I'm going to be very candid with you all here, shit's wonky. I mean, every time I turn on like anything, it's like the DOJ, the inventory sound, interest rates, like, and it's a weird time. So why we're doing this right now is for me to get back in alignment with my team, my leaders, and say, we have control. We have control of what we're going to do. So let's the 5 of us get in alignment, and then let's go deliver the message to our team. But let's the 5 of us get in alignment of where we're going, right? So the first step, like I said, a full digress of where are we at. So like, where are we at? Like, how many agents do we have? How many closings have we had? How many agents, how many closings per agent? That's my number one thing I want to know, is how many closings per agent, so I can back into that number. Number 2, I want to know, where are our margins? Like, are we really off? Because I don't want to make a 5% profit margin or a 10% profit margin. Like, where are we at? And then the third lever is, where do we want to go? And so this is where I think the key component, like, hey, leaders, we're seeing that our agents are struggling. We're seeing that the messaging is a little bit different. We're seeing it's harder to get our new agents in production. And we're also seeing the massive opportunity that's coming right now too, because the strong are going to effing crush it. But it's going to probably take a 3, 6, 9 month of us holding on and moving forward. So this business planning, you guys, isn't me getting up here being like, okay, this is how you do it and create a budget, blah, blah, blah. It's like, all right, let's figure out where we're at and where do we really, and let's get an alignment of what needs to happen to make that happen, so they feel empowered. Because I don't know about you, I don't know who's on here, but my team is feeling very heavy right now. And it's not coming from Spring, it's coming from what's like all of it. And so I really want it to be like, no, we can treat this like a business and feel empowered, but we have to make educated decisions around it and then go from there.
Yeah, I love that because I totally agree that the purpose of business planning is bringing your team and creating that alignment and that energy and that momentum. That is absolutely one of the biggest benefits here. And then giving yourself a benchmark to measure yourself at throughout the year, and kind of like a stick to measure yourself against and say, how are we doing compared to what we thought we were going to do? But if business planning is a once a year thing for you, like it's just not, that's not the way to do it, right?
Yeah.
So it's a living, breathing thing that's going to adjust throughout the year. And maybe you're doing a bigger business planning here in Q4, which I recommend. But I mean, quarterly, I would even argue you should be looking at this stuff monthly, right? And always kind of,
We're looking at it. So we're actually looking at it monthly, but we're actually looking at it weekly.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
every week we connect and we go over how many appointments met on my team, how many under contracts, what's our revenue that's coming for the week, and what's our projected revenue that's coming in for the month. And we're pivoting, you guys. Like a couple years ago, I didn't have to pivot as much, but we are literally pivoting sometimes like probably monthly right now, but every week it's a conversation of like, holy cow, like my team is going on half as many appointments right now, you guys, than we were last year at this time.
And so
Half.
how do you know that?
I know it through Sisu.
I know
I was gonna say,
I want, this is important because I think you know this like instantly, right?
Yeah. So, and Zach, you can share my dashboard. So I'll show you guys what I'm looking at. But I'm looking at this saying, okay, if we have half as many appointments going on, then where are we closing? So our closings are down. Like, so you can look at even this right here, you guys on the left, this closed and forecasted units. So the blue is 2022. The orange is 2023. So you can see I've been really outpacing the market up until September. And September, we had a terrible month compared to the year prior and just in
Prior
general.
year. You've been outpacing prior year, right? Is that
Yep.
what you're
And
saying?
right. You can see the orange and you can see the orange right here. So September was not great. And so you can see October. So September, we closed 40 deals, which in the year prior, we did 61, right? And the month prior, go up to August, Zach, the month prior, we closed 88 transactions. So to go from 88 to 40, there's a massive conversation happening behind the scenes of saying what's going on in this team and what do we need to do to pivot and what are we doing to pivot internally. So then if you go, you
just
can
throw
see
something out there,
October.
Spring. I know that
Yeah.
Justin views it this way too. As a sales leader, the biggest possible red flag that you should be looking at is a big month next month. Because if you're having a big month next month, people are already letting their foot off the gas, and it's your time to step back in and get people back on the phones, get people back prospecting. I think the hardest thing to overcome as a salesperson is success, right?
Right.
Mhm.
Big deals.
Those
Yeah.
88 deals you're saying, Zach, those 88 deals in August is the time when the gas should have been pushed, knowing that there's going to be this letdown possibly
Yeah.
comes to,
Well, and I know
right?
you probably did. And honestly, if you hadn't,
Well,
September might have ended up even worse, right? But it's just
well,
interesting because we see this all the time.
well, if you guys look at, so you guys even look at this, look at the roller coaster in my business, January, February, March, then it's down, then it's up, then it's down, then it's up, up. So, I mean, we as a team have this roller coaster because you can have, like your agents have a great month and off, but what had happened, if I'm being very honest with you guys, we've done really well. We've outpaced. And so everybody's been from my leadership team, I think they've gotten comfortable. I think it's been a grind. Like if you would have told me I had to add, we're up to 92 agents. Our goal was 50. So last year we had 50 agents. And when this started happening last year and the market went down by 40%, we said we need to increase agent count by 40%. So we went in and hired a bunch of agents, which is what saved us because third and fourth quarter was not great. You can see the blue. We were on that struggle, and it was because my senior agents hadn't really adapted yet to the new normal. And so we brought in fresh new blood for that. But what I want to show you guys on this is October is what it is now. And so we haven't closed all of them yet, but that's closed and forecasted so far. And we still have transactions coming in. It's only October 20th or whatever, right? But that's what we're pacing in terms. And so I share with you guys this too. This is how we're making our decisions. So if we're going in and saying what's really happening, the annual plan, we're putting together an annual plan, but I'm really putting together a quarterly plan. How are we going to get through fourth quarter to make sure we're thriving going into 2024, and going from there.
So a
It's
couple,
so important that, sorry,
couple
this-
things real quick. 1 second, Zach. So I just want to make sure, I think Colum, you had a question about, okay, so if you can't reduce your expenses by 40%, what do you focus on? And I think, you know, to what Spring has spoken about already, I think is agent count and being able to then, you know, get more transactions from having more agents in the mix.
Yeah, I mean, you guys, like, so if you follow me on social media, if you ever want something funny, go read the comments on my ad, because I said, hey, the number one driver in revenue is increasing your agent count as a team. I've gotten so many like hate from that, but it's the truth. It is the truth, you guys, because here's the deal. Like, the only way to increase additional things coming in is either getting your agents to produce more, or you have to bring on more agents, right? And Tom Ferry said this best. And recently I saw him speak. He said, you either have to go lean or mean in this market, like really lean, like you're the producer and you're going lean or mean, or you have to grow and scale, because the messy middle, this is not the market to believe. This is not the market to be in that messy middle. And I personally was like, we've got to bring on more agents, and whatever that means to you and your business is totally fine. But for us, we were like, we've got to increase agent count to get additional revenue coming in.
So here's another thing I just want, and I want to point something out. Zach, can you scroll down to the appointments met? And I just want to touch on this. So you know, when we were looking at the sales, the actual units closed and the GCI created, I think we can look at those as what we call lagging indicators, right? Because there's leading indicators and there's lagging indicators. And when you want to really get a focus, you want to get granular of what's going on with your business, looking at things like your appointments set, your appointments met, right? These are going to be what we call these leading indicators of what's going on with the business. And that's another granularity that Sisu can provide for you, is you can get a sense that if you're meeting with people here in August or September, sorry, you know, those people are most likely going to be the ones that are transacting in September or October. So I just kind of wanted to point that out, that there's also a way to use this from a leading indicator as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we're looking at how many conversations they're having, but truthfully, what we're really measuring, like the metric I as leader every day get reported out from my leadership team, is how many appointments met, because I want to know who they're getting face to face with. In the past, we've been, for every 5 appointments met, it was 1 closing. So when I hear that we only went on 12 appointments, I'm like, okay, well, that's 2 transactions we can get from that. We're watching that because that number's changing with where the market's at. It's just changing how many appointments they're having to meet to get that. And so we're being very fluid on it, of just knowing our numbers. One thing we're really working on right now, back to what Zach said earlier, is really engaging our sales team. And we're really focusing on getting back into one-on-one conversations with every single one of them, because some people are winning right now and some people are really struggling. And so it's us knowing what's actually happening with them, to try to figure out their mindset and if they're committed. Because I don't know about you guys, but a lot of my team was built during the 2020, 2021, and it's just a different market. And it's going back into Sierra, creating those relationships, providing value, that quite many of them didn't learn that. And it's my fault. Like, we were going with the market. Cool. Answer your phone with the ALM, get in front of them, and let's go, you know? And so now it's creating that long-term relationship and nurturing them. And so it's a pivot on our end.
Yeah. So, hey, I want to bring up another great question here. So this is from Ricky. Hey, Ricky, good to see you again. Great being with you in Denver last week. He's asking about your annual advance, and his specifically, you know, are there specific exercises that you're doing, or if there's speakers or messaging that you're bringing in to basically to energize your people, and then having them focus on knowing exactly what they need to do. And I think this last part is important, who they need to be. So it was just asking if there's any specifics around that you've planned out so far.
You know what? We haven't, because we do it every quarter. So what I'm going to focus on, so yesterday actually, the Salt Lake City team went and did a breathwork session. If you guys follow Utah Life on it. So our offsite is going to be October 31st with our leadership team. And then we're going to do an offsite with the speakers with our leadership team of our senior agents. And that offsite is going to just be in one day. We're not going to travel anywhere. We're going to go local. We are going to bring in more of a motivational speaker, not necessarily real estate. I might approach a real estate coach that I respect that's local to ask him if he'll come in, because he'll have a different perspective of the market that we're in. Hearing from me hits differently if you hear from somebody else when it's your own team, right? And then we're going to do some leadership stuff, not 100% like, hey, this is how many conversations you need to have and all of that, because CSU does that for you. Like, we know that. It's more or less
and that's
getting
like
their
a
head.
weekly thing too. Like that's like
Right.
a month. Like you're looking at, you live and breathe that. You don't know
Yeah.
what I mean? So
Yeah, we're not going to do that. So we're going to go into like, and we Ricky, to answer your question too, we readdress their goals every month. So we're readdressing their CSUs every single month, because I'm setting a dashboard at the beginning of the year, even for the quarter. Like, if they're off and it's all blue, then it's not fun. And so every single month we're sitting down and looking at that. So this year, we will hit on for a leadership team, and we'll probably do like, we always do a half day, like retreat for our agents every quarter. I don't have that booked yet. Now, I will say my Salt Lake City team yesterday, what the leader there did, and there's about 40 agents that work in that office. He took them all to a breathwork session, which breathwork's it's fun. It's different. And then he had them come back and do vision boards. And so it wasn't about like how many calls you need to make, how many conversations, like what do you want? And then he took them to do $100 dinner club, which is they all tip $100 to a local person. And so I think only 15 people went to that, but they tipped somebody $1,500. And so most of the PTAC team DM'd me yesterday and was like, this was the best day. I've been feeling so heavy. This released so much. And so we're really into that human element of it. So this year, again, I'm not going to go heavy of like team initiative and let's go and rah rah. We're going to go back into like bringing a personal development speaker or somebody to have a little bit more like human element to it, and then help them set their goals in CSU, but nothing of like, here's your year vision. Cause I don't think they have a year vision, to be honest with you.
Well, yeah, and I think there's a couple of questions going on in the chat that speaks to that, and I just want to tie this all together. So to Jill's question, yes, you do a annual budget and you put your annual goals. However, you do have to then be reviewing those and perhaps make pivots and make adjustments as you go throughout your year. I mean, again, to what we talked about at the beginning of the call, who would have ever thought that we'd be looking at 8% interest rates, a DOJ trial, no inventory. I mean, all the other wonkiness that's going on in the industry. So yes, you do have to make adjustments as you go.
Yeah. So Ricky, annual, then work off 12-week year. I'm going annual, but I'm actually looking at it every month. I'm not even doing a 12-week year unless it's for a project. If it's for a project, like rolling out a listing, or we're going, like we call them rocks, then we're working off a 12-week year. But right now we're doing a monthly situation. And then the budget we are setting that budget and looking at the metrics, just because, like I said, it's so easy to get off and we lose our profit margin. So we are setting an annual budget, but again, we're going to revisit it. The budget we'll probably revisit every quarter, but the actual metrics we're revisiting every month.
Yeah. So Zach,
what's profound, Spring, that you're doing is, I think a lot of people want to bring their agents into an annual business plan and get them pumped up, get them with an annual plan, and like almost create that plan for them and then hand it to them and like, here's your plan for the year. And it just never gets looked at. And the same, what I think the shift is, and what you do so well in your business is you teach them how to think exactly how you think. You teach your agents how to think like a business owner, and you teach them how to use the data to pivot within their own businesses. You're actually teaching them the skill of business planning so that they can do it every single day for the rest of the year, rather than giving them a business plan and saying, hey, good luck with this. Let's talk next year and see how your business plan went, right? And
Yeah,
to just
yeah.
illustrate that, like, we're looking at yearly numbers here, right here for the Utah Life, all the way down to conversations, right? Well, each one of your agents has their own, even down to their mentor groups. I'll just pull up Jordan's here. He has his own business plan that he can analyze just as well as you can analyze your business. He can shift and he can pivot, and he's going to do that every single week in his one-on-ones for the rest of the year. That is so profoundly different than here's your business plan, right?
Yeah.
He actually is empowered to think like a business owner. So,
Well, yeah, and this is the thing. I'm glad you're bringing this up, Zach. I feel like this webinar, people are like, okay, she's not giving me any context here. You guys, I just think planning an annual, like, yes, you as your leaders need to sit down and say, what's our budget? What's our vision? Let's look at the market and be willing to pivot about every quarter. But with your agents, they don't think the same way. So your agents, I think, yes, cool. Hey guys, what would this next year look like if it was a win for you? Okay, what needs to happen for that to be? And we'll go in as what Zach has over here. Zach, if you want to show them the goal section, we'll have them fill this out so their dashboard populates that way. But then we're going in and pivoting it every single month. So we're going in and pivoting every single month to say, okay, Zach, you told me you wanted to make $200,000 because you wanted a new house. Is that really what you still want? Well, yeah, it's really what I still want. Well, are you willing to do the work for that? Okay, cool. If you are, then this is what needs to happen. If not, let's go in and change it. Right. And so you can see, I don't know whose dashboard this is, but this is what he put in for him to be able to hit his goals. Right. And so, so this is what will go in every single month and change. The biggest mistake I made as a leader, you guys, is I let their goals become my goals. So I let their numbers that they said, oh, I'm going to sell 40 homes, I'm going to sell 30 homes, I'm going to sell 20 homes. And that was my team goal. All of those added up. And we were never on pace to ever hit them. And a lot of them were very aspirational. And so what we decided as a company 4 years ago is said, what as a company do we want to do? How much money does Spring need to make? How much money does Zach need to make? How much money does so-and-so need to make? And then it was like, okay, let's back into how we create that. And that was where we were like, cool, we need to have this many agents. We need to have this many transactions. Great. Now we feel like we have control over what we're doing. And let's bring on our partners in order to do that. So Zach, I think you're showing right here is the goal calculator, right?
do I sound any louder, by the way, or am I still coming through quiet?
It's a little bit quiet, but
you're good to me, but
Let me try
so
that.
this is the goal calculator. So this, you guys can use this for free if you're not a Sisu client. You can go on to sisu.co and you can put in, they have it under the resource tab, I think. It has a goal calculator and it will just pull industry averages. Now, if you have a team, this will pull based off of what they've done. So where it says scope, this can pull from any of the agents tracked. It can pull their exact data. So Zach
from
hit
prior
on
year, like from prior year, or right?
Yeah, or even this year. So put Jordan on. That's great. Jordan hasn't been with us the full year, but this is Jordan's business. So his average price point is $360,000. His split paid income is 53. He's at a 50-50. His under contract closes at 80%. He's got a GCI percentage of 3%. His signed to under contract is 24, and his appointments met signed is 73. Appointments to set blah, blah, and then his conversion conversations to appointments 5%. So the point of this is I can go in and change that $100,000 and say, what is his goal? And so let's say Jordan wants to make, Zach, if you'll put it in, $400,000. based off of the numbers he's put into C-suite, I can hit calculate, and it's going to tell Jordan what he now needs to do. So based off of this, Jordan needs to, for 2024, he would need to have $2 million of closed volume, under contract volume of 2.6, because not everything closes. He would make closed GCI of 62,000. Seller closed, he would have basically 3. Buyer closed, he'd have 3. And then how many put under contract is roughly 3.6, so it'd be 4. So we round these up, right? But this would be based off of, so if Jordan wanted to increase his business, I could look at this and say, Jordan, you wouldn't need to do anything different besides get your conversion ratio from signed to under contract up. Because that's how far off he is, right? He's signing a lot of people and not getting them under contract. Does that make sense? So that would be a coaching moment. But just if I was to walk him through and say, what do you need to do? He needs to set 34 appointments per month in order to hit that income goal. Then it would walk into like, okay, Jordan, so on a daily basis, and this breaks it down into Sisu. If he put save goals, this would populate his dashboard. And then this is where Jordan and I are having this conversation of exactly what he needs to do to hit his income.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Spring.
No, I was going to say, so when we're talking about business planning, you guys, this is what I do. So from a company, I go in and say, okay, this is how much money I believe we can make. This is where we're at. These are our situations. And we'll get that buy-in of like, we need to have 90 agents to close. We know that every agent's worth 1 transaction a month to us. That's just, some are going to sell more, some are going to sell less. And the reason I know that is from, we pull up our CSU and say, how many did we close and how many agents did we have? Simple as that, right? It's so simple. Now, from there, we say, okay, well, 90 agents will make us XYZ amount of money. Then, and is that the number we want, or do we need to go above or below, whatever that is? From there, your agents don't care about your business plan. They care about what they want to do and what they want to create. And so from there, it's helping those 90 agents hit their goals. And this is what we do on a monthly basis, is back them back into what are their goals.
Yeah, I was just gonna, so like if I'm writing this down, 2 really profound shifts. Rather than focusing on creating business plans for my agents, I'm going to teach them how to plan as a business owner. I'm going to teach them this skill, because I know that your agent, Spring, can jump in and do this and analyze their business this way. The second thing that I think is very important, that I know your organization does, that I actually think is profound as well, is it's the smallest little shift, but in your one-on-ones and in your meetings, your agents show up with their CSU. So if I'm an agent, this is actually an agent's dashboard on your team, and I show up to a one-on-one, I actually present my business to you, and I pull up CSU and I show you what's going on in my business, and then I ask you for advice. The reason that that's such a big shift is because if I take the business plan that I created for you, that I put in your CSU, and I share my screen and I put it in front of your face, this is not your business plan. This is my business plan, right? I'm the only one doing any work for it. But if you're the one creating the business plan, putting it into CSU, and then presenting it to me as your leader in a one-on-one, totally different game. Now it's my baby. And now we can have a conversation where you can say, hey, first thing I'd be looking at here, your goal is 400 conversations a month. You're off pace there. And that's really where it all starts. So do we need to lower your goal? Right? Or are we going to get that conversation activity up? Right. He's not that far off. So maybe that's a little harsh, but that's the reality, right? If you're not starting there, you're just not realistic about how much money you actually want to make. So,
well, I think Zach, to your point, like I would never show up to a coaching call and have the coach present me his business.
Ever.
Present me my business. Yeah. It would never happen. So to your point, as a team leader, I'm aware of what they're doing, but I'm going to have them come in and share exactly what you're saying. They're presenting it to me, of where they need to be at. And then I'm having the conversation like, hey, you're off. Is that still really important? You guys, this is tying it back into what their why was, of why they said they wanted to make however much it was. And do they really want that? If you scroll down on here, Zach, I don't know what it'll show how much money he's made. So he's got 4 units pending. He's made $96,000. He has $14,000 coming in. So these are the conversations I'm having of like, hey, You know, where are you at? Does this, like, where are you at financially? Where are you at coming into Christmas? October right now, like, we got to start thinking about the holiday season. Tell me what your plan is for the holidays. Do you plan on working? Do you plan on going on vacation? You want to take time off? Like, really starting to have those conversations of what their financial needs are going to be during that time as well is imperative. And then it's like, hey, dude, you're at 223 conversations. He's really not that far off. You can see like the blue to the gray. I usually actually pull this, having it be month to date, so I can see where, instead of, I think this is probably for the month. But I can't see what you have on the date range on here, but I'll usually pull like where they should be month to date and have that conversation with them of how do we get you all orange, because orange means that they're pacing for it. And so again, I think that back to you guys as business owners, the annual part is going to be really crucial of you guys getting together and saying, what do we need to do as a team right now to either pivot or take market share, and what numbers do we need to look at? Like, what's our cost of goods sold? Where are marketing margins at? Where are expenses for salaries? Are they in alignment? And how many agents do we need to have in order to hit our goals? And I would say you just need to consistently be building that bench of talent coming in your organization. I was in a mastermind the other day, and Brett Jennings, who I respect at the very highest level, he said the number one thing agents should be concerned about is the new agents getting in the industry, because the new agents don't know anything different and they're going to work. And so I think having those, like, building that bench of people, and then the last component is you working with the agents you have, just like Zach showed you, and helping them really dial in what they're going to do in their business. Because as you guys know, homes are still going to sell. It's just the decision if it's going to be with your team or not, or with that agent. And some are going to work and some are not, right? And so showing them, like, are you really actually working? I think this gives you power too, of like, okay, 223 conversations. So I'm not dissing it. I'm not saying it's good or bad, but the conversation I normally would say, how long do you think those 223 conversations took you? And let's say they even gave you 10 minutes of conversation. So, and let's say that was broken up for 2 weeks. So let's just do easy math for me, 100 conversations. So you worked roughly 20 conversations a day. Each one of those took you 10 minutes. So let's say you called for 3 or 4 hours. What'd you do the rest of your time? Right. Did you work a full 8-hour work day? And I just think it's a little bit of that awareness helps them be able to be like, oh, you're right. Maybe I'm not working as hard as I thought I was.
Well, and the conversation is also, by the way, this is based on how much you told me you want to make. You told me you want to make 200,000. I want you to make 200,000. I'm being a little tough on you, but that's not what you want to make. Like, let's get realistic here. Most of them will say, no, I'm gonna make the conversations, and it's just a different angle of accountability that's way more productive. So
yeah.
Hey, Spring, there's a couple questions just real quick.
Yeah.
There's one question up here from Jill. She's like, are you using Sierra as your CRM? We have Sierra, but we're using Follow Up Boss for our CRM. So I know, I'll let you speak to that.
Yeah. So Jill, I use Sierra for everything. I know a lot of people use Follow Up Boss and Sierra. Whatever works for your business. I've always ran a really lean organization, and I love Follow Up Boss. It's great. I just personally, Sierra does everything that I need it to, so I didn't see the need for having two, right? So we use Sierra and Sisu. So Sierra has an integration with Sisu. So whatever they put in Sierra automatically goes into Sisu. So if they log a call, it logs the conversation. If they log the appointment set, it logs the appointment set. Like, it automatically we have it triggered that if they mark it as prime, that's what our hot is, then it logs into their Sierra as a transaction for their pipeline. It logs into Sisu from Sierra. And you can see all the data. It's just pulling real time. I have these 4 TVs up on one of the walls in my office, and it rotates through what's happening for the day, leaderboards, tracking, all of that.
I just had to show this because that is actually super important, because it drives a culture of, if it didn't happen in the CRM, it didn't happen, right? So the number of calls you made is actually tied to the CRM where you're making those calls. And when you walk into the office and see a leaderboard, and you're a 0 on it because, oh, well, I made my calls outside of the system. You've actually driven such good CRM engagement, which is a superpower for your team just through this little
Yeah.
shift, right?
Yeah.
And then
So Jennifer, to answer your question on, sorry, for CSU tracking appointment details, we track it through Sierra. So in my world, if it's not in Sierra, it doesn't exist. So, and it's because it's been a huge emphasis for us to get people back into the database and working and nurturing those relationships. So they'll mark it into as an appointment met, and it will populate into CSU as an appointment, or vice versa. There's a two-way integration. So if they put it in CSU, they pull up that client in CSU and they met the appointment, it will populate back in. But CSU has the back end where you can do all of your transaction management, your client portal, so the client can see where the transaction's at, all of your ROI reports, absolutely everything. So it's not just a dashboard that you coach your agents with. It's how I make my business decisions to know like what's going on my team. So like today, I could click a button right now, Zach, and show you guys, like, I know how much revenue is coming into this team today. I know how much revenue is coming in next month just by a click of the button of what's been put in the back end of CSU.
Yeah.
Did you have something, Scott?
Yeah, a couple quick things, and then I know we're up against it from a time perspective. Want to be respectful of everyone's time. So really, it's just as simple of applying a tag within Sierra that then kicks off a transaction or in CSU, and then as you apply the subsequent tags, it changes the date. So if you book the appointment today, right, it puts down today as the 18th of October. Then if you meet the appointment in, let's just say 2 days, you apply the appointment met tag, it puts the 20th, the 2 days later. So love to, show you guys a demo and all that, how it works. Zach, did you drop in the chat if they want to learn more about CSU? I didn't know if you dropped anything in there. I would love them to be able to do that as well. And then Ricky's going to drop, but he wants to know later, and we can kind of address this offline, but who is what's the strongest part of CSU? And I think maybe it's the leaderboards that you guys showed earlier in that picture that Zach showed. So it's business planning, it's the transaction management, it's the leaderboards, it's the accountability. I think it's an amazing overall tool together. So
yeah. So I think when I read your question, Ricky, was what contests seem to get the highest. I know you guys got to get off, but my boys versus girls always like create some crazy camaraderie / competition. And then also breaking them into smaller teams, because agents, if it's not a boys versus girls, so that's not, they can't hide like behind having just 2 teams. But you and I can connect offline if you want to talk about, we've got some fun ones that we've done recently that have drove a lot of productivity. Before we get off, you guys, so I have a partnership with Sierra and CSU that I love and respect so much. They both have been game changers in my business. My partnership with CSU is we do a quarterly mastermind, CSU Mastery, in Salt Lake City. The CSU team puts it together. It's straight up fire. So CSU puts it together that you mastermind with Brian, the CEO, Zach, their team. And then we come in and we show you everything we're doing, Justin and myself, from agent attraction, leadership, how we're using CSU to run our business, but really what we're doing. And then day 2, they shuttle you into my office. So they shuttle you in so you can see a live team meeting, a live morning huddle, a live script and role play. And we open up our back end and show you absolutely what we're doing. And then the really cool thing that CSU does that I just like love and respect is they have their whole staff there. So if there's something you want to execute or implement, they can get you done that day. So if they have the implementation the rest of the day of anything you're stuck on or you want to add, and it's super cool. So the next one is November 6th through 8th in Salt Lake City. Brian and I are hosting a private mastermind at our house for the team owners the day before. It's the 5th, right, Zach?
Yep, that's correct.
Yeah. So just because we know like it's such a weird space, I think all of us getting together and actually masterminding. So we're opening up our personal home. If you can't tell, I'm married to Brian, the CEO. So Brian and I are opening up our home for that mastermind. If any of you guys would like to come,
I
because
actually had that wrong, Spring. The Monday is the 6th. That's
6th,
like
okay.
when we are doing the welcome reception, and
Okay.
during the day on the 6th, that's where we're doing the
Okay.
private mastermind,
Yep,
team owner
perfect.
mastermind.
Yeah. So
And we'll be there this
yep.
time. So we're actually,
Oh, wow.
Sierra's going to be there for this one. So we're looking
Yay.
forward to being there as
Cool.
one of your
Yeah.
partners. So
Yeah, I'm grateful for it. So if any of you guys want to come, we have space. So the discount code, tickets are $800, but the discount code, if you put spring 199, it will take it down to $199. Space is limited to actually get into my office and my house. I can't fit hundreds of people. So we don't have a ton of space left, but if you want to come get your tickets, we would love to have you. And we're excited. I think it's some of the best 2 days that you can spend. And it's not just because we're putting it on, it's truly a transformational experience. We've had people keep on coming back every single time. And I'm like, oh, you're back, but I'm like, we're obviously doing something right. So we'd love to have you. All right, my friends, anything else?
awesome. Well, this has been fantastic. It's not too often that you hang on to 85%, sorry, of the folks throughout the entire, and even keep them over here by 7 minutes. So I know this has been a huge value to everyone. And again, I can't thank you, Spring, and Zach, you as well, for coming on and sharing all this. I think everyone learned a lot, got some great insights, and I think I saw some ahas going through the chats there. So thank you again for everyone, and we'll catch you guys next time. Take care.
Thank you, guys. See you later.
Everyone, we'll see you.
Bye, guys. Yeah, bye.